So about 4 years ago, I opened a grocery store, and just 2 weeks ago, I posted a video and said I decided to sell it. So in today's video, I'm going to share as much as I can how much a grocery store can make based on my personal experience. My name is Ritu and I make videos on all things business and entrepreneurship. If you like this type of content, make sure to subscribe for more. Alright, so for some context, my grocery store was located in Montreal and it was approximately 2,000 square feet. I would have actually called my store a convenience store just given the size and just the way it was structured. But because we were selling fish and meat, legally it was considered a grocery store. So my store was really not just 2,000 square feet of groceries, it was really a mix of 3 different things. We had the groceries, the frozen items, and the takeaway service. It was basically 2 units in one. One side was the grocery side and the other side had a commercial kitchen, and we built a walk-in freezer. So first, let's talk about the expenses, because there's really no point of owning a store or any business if you don't get to keep any money. The first expense is rent or mortgage. This one is pretty straightforward. Most people like myself are gonna rent for this type of business because of the location. I was in a strip mall on a busy boulevard. Unless you're opening in the middle of nowhere, you're most likely going to rent. In my opinion, for this type of business, I think there's way more pros than cons when it comes to renting. I can make a whole video about that, but it's really important for the rent amount to be under control and to be reasonably priced. The reason why I say that is because you'll see in a minute that this is a business that runs on very slim margins. Number 2, utilities, and this one kind of came as a shock to me. My electricity bill was just as much as my rent some months, even higher, and this was not something I expected at all. Reason being, running a grocery store requires a lot of electricity. There's the air conditioning or heating, there's many fridges, many freezers, and you're pretty much open 24/7. Your electricity bill in the summer can really fluctuate a lot, especially if you have a lot of freezers and fridges, because they produce a lot of heat, especially if the parts like the motor is inside the store, because that's what produces the most amount of heat. If it's on the roof, it's fine, but this is really something to consider if you're going to be building a grocery store from scratch and you're getting one installed. The other expenses are quite normal, like gas, phone, and internet, water, and so on. They actually shouldn't be too high given the nature of the business. If you've been enjoying the video so far, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more business related content. Number 3, insurance. Insurance is one of those expenses that are just annoying to have because you're always gonna have it. It's always gonna be a lot of money. There's no way around it. The one I went with was roughly $300. Now this was definitely not the cheapest. I know there were some companies that were offering $100, $200, but I just wanted a really good coverage. So this one was, in my opinion, the most fair. If you're able to pay your insurance once per year, so in one payment, you're gonna save a lot of money. Just to give you some idea, because I did do some research when I was trying to find an insurance, the average price in the US and in Canada for a small business is roughly $450. Number 4, license and permits. This is one of those expenses that were just a hidden cost for me. I wish I would have known so I could prepare myself, but it wouldn't have stopped me from opening the business itself. And this is a perfect example as to why I launched my social media talking about businesses, because these are expenses that you just don't hear about. You have no idea it's coming. And I just want to share them so you're not going to be stuck. So a grocery store has a lot of different permits. There's of course the occupation permit, there's the health department, fire department, one to sell the produces, one to sell the products, one to sell tobacco, alcohol, and every other thing you're going to be selling requires a permit. But not only are you going to have to apply for the permits, which is a pain, but you're also going to have to renew them maybe every quarter or once a year, depending on the permit. And these renewals are not cheap. Just to give you an example, I had to renew my alcohol permit almost every quarter, if I'm not mistaken, or twice a year, and it was roughly $300 each time. So definitely make a list of all the permits you're gonna need when opening your business, whatever business that is, because you don't want to be just hit with these bills out of nowhere. And you also need these permits to function. So for sure, before opening any business, whether it's a grocery store or something else, make sure to have a list of all the permits and the renewal dates. You don't want to be hit with $1,000 bills just out of nowhere a few times a year and not be prepared. So the 5th major expense I'm going to cover is labor. This one is really tricky because it heavily depends on the size of the store. Remember that a grocery store is open usually 7 days a week and a minimum of 12 hours per day. So you're going to need labor during those hours, but also you're going to need enough labor to cover the size of your space. For example, a 2,000 square feet store requires roughly 2 to 3 employees depending on volume, but a 5,000 square feet store is going to need more like 5. Labor is really not cheap, so this is really something to take in consideration when you're deciding on the size of your space. If you want to learn more about the cost of opening a grocery store or a convenience store, I'm going to link another video down below that you can have a look. If you also want to start your own business, I have a brick and mortar course that teaches you everything step by step. I share how to find the ideal product or service, how to buy an existing store, permits and licensing, and really everything you need to know to start a business step by step. It's gonna be linked down below, so make sure to check that out. Now, after all your expenses, how much can you really expect to have? Well, I actually took some of my past bills and broke it down by categories so you can have a sense of how much you can expect if you want to open one. Now, please know that this is based on my experience. It can be really different depending on where you are in the world, but I think it's gonna be pretty similar. Let's start with fruits and vegetables. You can expect to make a profit margin between 20 and 40%. So let's say you sell $10,000 worth of fruits and veggies, you'll be profiting $3,000. Now, don't forget that within that $3,000, you have all the other expenses and more that we just covered. The average margin for canned items are usually about 25%. This is one category that really fluctuates because I know that gas stations, for example, they're gonna price canned items much higher than a typical grocery store. Reason being is because some people get these items usually late at night out of desperation because everything else is closed. Next up, there's dairy products that run on very slim margins, but they sell really well. Reason being, you can't price milk and eggs too high. They are a staple and they're usually sold to grocery stores already pretty high. I have never made more than 10% on these items, but like I said, they sell really well. Now, on the other hand, meat and fish have the highest margin I have seen to date, and that's what we sold the most. It was between 30 and 40%. The way to do this, in my opinion, is to have something unique. Find a product that people can't get easily in other grocery stores, like a specialty product. Next up, liquor, which has very healthy margins between 20 and 40%. It also sells very, very easily all day, every day. Now, other categories like snacks, condiments, bread, pastas, the margins are extremely low. It's just not even worth mentioning. These are not things that are gonna make you money, but you have to carry them in your store, or people are gonna be annoyed that they have to come for one thing but they don't have the rest. So you're gonna have them in your store, but they're not gonna pay your bills. If you decide to carry frozen items in your store, I think that's a really good idea. They usually sell really well, and also they have really long shelf life. However, the cost of operating a freezer can be pretty high. So overall, as you can see, the profit margins for a grocery store is roughly 30%. But remember that these are low ticket items. Even if you sell something that has a 40% profit margin, like let's say alcohol, you're gonna have to purchase the bottle for $10 and sell it for $14, so you're really just making $4 per bottle. This is why this business is heavily dependent on volume. The store needs to be busy every single day. And you really have two choices to make a store a success. You can either open a store that carries the majority of things people need and want, so you're their one-stop shop, or open a small convenience store on a busy street so people are in and out all day for basic things like drinks or a snack. I would definitely stay away from opening those in-between stores. So basically, those are stores that have a little bit of everything. It's kind of annoying because they're gonna come to your store for 5 things and they have to go somewhere else, so they might as well should just go to a big store and just get everything there. One thing that I really learned is it's really important to put yourself in the customer's shoes. You always want to ask yourself, if I was a customer, would I shop here? Would I come here? Would I support this business? And so on. Now, I personally think that if the store's expenses are reasonably priced and if you can find labor costs relative to the volume of the store, you're set for success. The moment you can't keep up with your expenses and you almost aim too high is really when you shoot yourself in the foot. I think a business of this nature, if you were to open it in a suburban area, should make at least $1,500 per day. And if you're in a busy area like downtown, it should make double or triple that amount. It's highly relative to where you're opening the store, but these are just numbers in my opinion that make sense. I hope this video clarified a few things for you if you want to open a supermarket or a convenience store. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!